Yeah, it's under inspections.
So it's not an actual time, it's reasonable.
Correct. I have to try to find it where it is at this point.
Page 7.
What's that, page 7?
7.2, under inspections.
Ah, yes, thank you. I had it, I thought it had a, yep.
I'm concerned with, I didn't see it, now I see it, but the reasonable part, who decides what's reasonable?
The attorneys. That's attorney language.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Reasonable is about a person's, what a reasonable person would believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a whole theory. Don't want to take that class.
It is a legal term of art.
Yeah.
Fine with me then.
So, yes, Councilor Gary Allen.
I'm trying to decide if I wanted to open this can of worms. I'm going to leave that one alone. The one question I do have is, did we ever get the HUD citation for the staffing ratios?
Oh,
Did
no,
we
we
ever find
didn't.
anything that actually said that?
I was not able to find that on the review. I did dive into it. I didn't spend hours. I might be able to find it, but I was not able to find it.
Okay.
And the reason for that request is my recollection is that was a number that came from
Bread of life.
Bread of Life.
They read it.
Bread of Life, right? It came from Bread of Life, who said they were quoting a HUD standard. I haven't been able to find that HUD standard.
Okay.
I actually think they called HUD and got that and said it was very difficult to find.
Can confirm.
I would just want to state for the record that makes me uncomfortable. I don't like making policy decisions without something that proves that, I don't know. It makes me uncomfortable to be making policy decisions in that way.
The original source document.
The original source document is what I'm looking for. Then also, this is kind of taking a little bit of a side note, and I'm happy to talk with Jared about this later. One of the other things in this process that have come to light for me is that during our committee conversations, I requested maps based on the policy decisions that we were making related to land use. And I think that they're pretty complicated GSI maps is what I'm asking for. And my understanding is that maybe we're not able to do that in-house.
Yeah, we're very limited, but we have Eva, who's been taking some training, and we have God's services they've offered. So if there's a specific ask, we could see what we could do, but Matt has been saying that for a while, that we're lacking in GIS.
Yeah, I just want to state on the record that I support Matt's argument here, that I'm concerned about making policy decisions at this level of planning without a GSI map. And if somebody could find somebody who could do that for me, it would make me feel much more comfortable. And what I'm asking for is the ability to supersede the planning land ordinance decisions that we're making, right? So I want the map to apply all the planning board land ordinance changes to the map and tell me what that would give me for land across the city. Does that make sense?
It does to Matt. So is that something you could get us information on in a cost or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm just dangerous enough to know that there is a possibility of doing that. I just don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Matt can research that and to see if we have the capabilities now, and if not, what it would take to get them.
Okay, and if we can't do that in this conversation or in this present moment, I'm not gonna not vote for the ordinance because of that, or move it forward because of this, but I thought it was a very important thing to say, and if you can't get it for me, I'd be much happier, but if we can't in this policy conversation, I do think we should move this forward. It's important, it needs to happen, it needed to happen 2 years ago, and also I wanna have that conversation about giving our staff the ability to do the best planning work that they can possibly do, which is to have capacity to do GSI mapping.
And Matt had asked for a GIS person in last year's budget, and that wasn't something that we moved forward with.
Did you not put it in, or did we take it out?
I can't remember.
I don't
Yeah.
remember what happened. The city did have a GIS staff person when I started working for the city, and the 2008 financial crisis happened, and we haven't had one since then. It was a part-time person, but that staff person ended
Even
up
a
getting,
consultant.
that
Can we have a
staff person ended
consultant?
up getting
Well,
hired by
ye-
God.
Yeah, we talked about using KV Cog,
Yep.
and we had Eva's coming up to speed with it, so I think,
Correct.
we might have some capability that's better than before, but I just didn't want to, in full transparency, that has been discussed by our professional staff with us, that they're on your side with that we need that.
Team planning
yeah.
department.
And I agree with the manager. We do have some capabilities internally, and we have some data that is available to be able to do the types of things you're talking about. But the depth of analysis that you're talking about is something that
Yeah, I'm asking for complicated analysis of a policy.
and that is the types of thing that you can query a database inside a GIS and get some really good results and have useful information for policymaking. It's not just a matter of having the staff to do it. It's also a matter of having the data input to be able to then manipulate by staff that know how to manipulate it. And we don't have all of that data inserted yet into a GIS.
Let me know how I can help.
All right, so besides presenting this to you folks tonight, we've identified several tweaks to it. I'm not sure I heard many or any objections to any of the final suggestions or tweaks made to it tonight. So let me ask, our hope would be that we could put this on a business agenda for a first read next week, along with an order to send, for the planning board directing their work as well. With respect to the tweaks we've talked about tonight, is everybody content with relying on Matt's notes and maybe incorporating those into a version that you see next week? Or is it something that you want to deal with on a one-by-one basis by way of amendments formally? Everybody,
I'm comfortable with Matt.
all right.
I can easily draft that into a council order for next week. And if obviously it can be amended by the council. It's, at that point, what it is, it's an order to send the land use items to the planning board for planning board review.
That and a first read of the ordinance.
And a first read of the ordinance, if you'd like, for the licensing ordinance as well, yes.
Is everybody ready for that?
Yes,
Okay,
move it forward.
all right. Anything else on this? Going. All right. Moving that to, I presume, mayor and council, the next business meeting? Okay. Next is C4, the opioid settlement fund grant application process. Councilor Sinkowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am delighted to bring this back to council. We have worked on this application for 8 months, and it is ready to go live as of 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Thank you. I have Director of Community Services, Earl Kingsbury, running the laptop for me. Earl has been incredible staffing our committee with also Community Response Specialist Don Kearns. The committee has put our application into Microsoft Forms. So council, you'll see there's a PDF print that is quite small that is at the back of your memo, and that is what it looks like when you go through the screens. We talked for a while. We started with a couple of different applications from other entities and decided that neither of them really fit what we wanted, so we created our own. And we leaned pretty heavily into narrative formats because we knew we wanted to encourage a wide variety of applicants, and we wanted applications that are reflective of what they are applying for. So we were imagining fairly small grants that might be capital costs. We kept using the example of a van or a washer and dryer, or things like that, up into large projects that might include programs or renovating a building or things like that. So we wanted to try to do an application that could encompass as much of that as possible. And that leaned into some, I think, 4 main areas where we ask our applicants to describe the community as it is, the landscape of services that already exist and the gaps they see in those services, then to describe their project, then to describe their finances, and lastly, to describe how they're going to evaluate their project going forward. So those are kind of the 4 main points of our application. If you'd like, I know the screen is pretty small, but we can flip through some of what it looks like on the computer with people go through it. The first few pages are a lot of background information. So there's that introduction page talked about what the opioid settlements are. This page, in your packet, Council, it's quite small no matter what, but it is the back pages, the solicitation of applications is what we're looking for at. There's a lot of legalese here that Cam wrote for us about us opening up an application process. The next screen are overall guidelines for use of the opioid settlement funds that come from the Moss Center and the state MOU. The next screen talks about the application itself, so who is eligible to apply, organizations. A lot of this comes from the policy that we wrote in November of '24 that they have to be focused on mitigating the harms from the opioid epidemic, that the grant-related activities have to be focused on the city of Augusta, outlining the 4 pillars that we identified in our council policy, and that this cannot supplant, and that's from the MOU as well. We can't supplant funding, but we can provide new or expanded funding. A few things that the committee decided were important to them were that proposals don't have to have a fixed site. You don't have to have a specific place you're operating out of. And organizations can submit multiple applications if they have different projects. We may not grant all of those applications, but an organization can apply more than once. And lastly, we are allowing some indirect costs. So those need to be clearly aligned and can't exceed 10% of the total funds requested, but we did say we wanted to help organizations with indirect costs. The next page is really specific application instructions about how to submit your application, the timeline, things along that nature. Then the next page is the supplemental materials, which Director of Communications Haley Galvin has been so helpful and put all of that on our webpage that is easily accessible for any applicant. So all of those, some of them are background information that the committee thought was important. Some of them are also the entire application printed out like this, so that applicants can go through and read the whole thing before they start filling it out. And also, one of the restrictions of Microsoft Forms is that they were unable to fill out their budget spreadsheet in the form. So we're supplying that in our supplemental materials for them to download. I think the last couple of things before you get to the actual application, the next slide is talking about the tiers of funding, which was very important to the task force. We are going to be scoring applications within tiers. So we decided that any applicant that is applying for up to $10,000 will be scored within the same pool. Applicants that are applying for $10,001 to $25,000 are scored within the same pool, and applicants that are applying for up to $50,000 are scored within the same pool. We talked for a long time about how to try to think about scoring like applications, and this was the best system that we kind of landed on. Was we didn't want to be too much prioritizing a ton of small projects. We didn't want to only prioritize these large projects, but we also understood that sometimes the complexity of a large project could make it look like a better application than a project that was applying for $5,000. So that was one of the ways we tried to instill some equality across the type of application that we think we're going to get. We also really wanted to prioritize groups that would target more than one of the pillars that the council identified. So we talked about the 4 pillars that the council identified were youth programming, recovery housing, flex funding for treatment, and what am I forgetting? Prevention. No, prevention was youth programming. There's one other. Harm reduction. So if a program was going to target more than one of those pillars, there's actually a bonus category in our scoring sheet that would give them some additional points. Similarly, there's some additional points throughout our scoring sheet for organizations that are working with other organizations so that they are building collaborations in town. The next is just a timeline for our applicants to understand. Oh, good, it did load. That was one of the questions about my skills with Microsoft Forms. Understand when to apply, when the grant is closing, kind of a rough outline of how long it might take to get it back to council with scoring, and then also council's rhythm of meeting. And one thing that we wanted to highlight was that the Opioid Settlement Fund Task Force is going to have a workshop on April 15th. So for people who are considering applying, if they read through the application, start to kind of fill out the application and come up with some questions or don't really understand what we're asking for, we're encouraging people to come to that workshop, and we will answer any questions that we can at the time. We cannot do it if you've already submitted your application. So if you are planning to come to that workshop, hold on to your application until after the workshop, and then you can submit your application with all of your questions answered. The last, before you get to actual questions, are some grant requirements. A lot of this is legal requirements about funds, how they must be used, and then giving our applicants an idea of what kind of reporting we're going to expect afterwards. A lot of this is also taken from the council policy from November of '24. And then you get to the actual application, which is only a couple of pages after all of that. Earl, you'll have to enter something to get to the next screen into each one of these. All of our questions are required, and a lot of this beginning stuff is organization name, the very basics of an application. I think Earl will get down to, in this, we ask about descriptions of your organization, short bios of the project personnel that will be working on this, which tier of funding you're going to fall into, and then how much funding you're actually going to ask for. If this is a new or expanded project, when you hope to start the project, when you hope to end it, if there is a location, how many people you're going to serve, and what the target population might be. So these are all fairly basic, almost demographic information. While Earl's getting there, I will introduce the narratives that he'll get to. The first narrative is that community landscape narrative that asks our applicants to give us an idea of how they view our landscape of services that exists already and what they think is missing, why they're applying for this. They have an opportunity here to include letters of support from collaborators. And I'll note that in our application, we have a bunch of mail to click links that applicants can email me directly to upload those external documents, because Microsoft Forms does have some limitations. So we could not have them upload them directly to the form itself. I should have turned that part off.
You don't have to get creative, just put one word in.
Yeah, I think
Breeze right through it.
I think it will even accept a character. Well, I'll take this time to see if anybody has any input while Earl's catching up for us. I know it's a lot to digest at this time of night.
Questions, feedback? Councilor Morris Pollock?
Sure. Your first narrative you were talking about, what's missing, is that in the current landscape, is that understanding of just the individual, or is that something that is a collaborative understanding based on the community as a whole? Where are they pulling that information from?
We actually asked them to provide data for what they're saying. So let me find where it is. So if services exist within or outside of your organization that currently address the identified need, explain that. But also, somewhere here, what community need does this project aim to address? And if there's more than one, please provide your answer for each. How did you determine the need for this project? And please supply any relevant data. So we're hoping that we will get both lived experience, but also some evidence-based background of the data that they see in our community. Is that answering your question?
It does, sort of. I'm just wondering whether we have a comprehensive list of what services are already here in Augusta that we can then pull from to say, well, have you checked on, have you checked with this, to give, both the subcommittee and the full council an idea of what we already have for services as we're scoring these?
Yeah, I think I understand your question better. We do have a list. The Homelessness Task Force did put together a list. I don't think anybody is actively updating it, and so it is outdated at this point in time. So I would say that that's one of the first places to start with. And our applicants should utilize that. That's a publicly available document, I believe.
Yeah, I hesitate on using that because I looked at it and it is very outdated. In fact, the services providers on there have not been in existence on some of those for over 2 years. So,
that is
yeah, I think
unfortunate.
that might be something that would be beneficial, is to come up with a resource list so that the subcommittee and the full council and the applicants have an idea of what services are already here in the city as they go about this. So
Yeah.
just my comment on that.
Thank you.
Councilor Allen's got a question or feedback?
Yes, thank you. So great job with this. It's a really phenomenal document.
Thank you.
Councilor Singowich, and to the committee. I can't imagine how many hours you put in. I did not attend a single one of those meetings, and you guys did a great job. So thank you. And so my questions are about kind of the future of looking forward after the application has been put out. Have you guys considered whether or not you're going to be asking for like quarterly reporting on any of these grants? And specifically, have you discussed the different types of reportings for the different levels of funding?
Yeah, so we did in the grant requirements section, we outlined the expectation for quarterly reports. We had some conversations at the task force level about noting the timeline would be people apply, and then if you are selected and approved by city council, we would have a discussion about almost like a contracting component is what it sounded like with CAM, because we imagine that there's not a one size fits all. So if someone is awarded $50,000, it's likely going to take them longer to spend that money, and it is going to need more follow-up. Whereas if someone is awarded $7,000, they may spend it within a quarter and only have to do like one round of follow-up. So our take on it is here in the grant requirements, here is everything you could imagine us doing, but we are going to make that determination once we've decided that you are selected and the city council has approved that selection.
Based on the project and based on
Yeah.
the specific amount of money. Yeah, that's best practice standards. That's exactly what I wanted to hear from you. Thank you.
Fantastic.
And then my other question was whether or not the committee is going to be getting any support or training on how to score using the rubric. And I will not ad-lib that question other than to say you do not want to see a committee who doesn't know how to use a rubric.
We spent quite a bit of time on our rubric. We built it in a lot of ways. And so I think we've tried to make it as simple as possible. And we will likely utilize some time between now and when we start scoring to go over it again and make sure everyone still has a strong understanding of it. But one of the examples we were given had a lot of weights and kind of complicated formulas in it, and we actually went the opposite direction and decided to use 1 to 5 scoring for each category, but then we were summing throughout the entire thing. And so there's very little kind of trying to understand what the score means, except that I think our entire application has a possibility of, I think it's 135 points. And we have like the percentages built in. But we want it to be as simple and easy to understand for both applicants and our scorers as possible.
Okay, and are you using an average of the entire committee score? Are you going to like sum everybody's score and then average it
Yes,
as the
that
final
is
score?
where we landed. Earl, am I remembering that right? We had talked about dropping the lowest, but we liked the average better. Yeah. Yep.
I think that is appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. We are at the community landscape one. I think we've covered that fairly well, Earl, if you want to type in a character. On each of these, because Microsoft Forms has limitations, we added in a couple optional answers for people. If you don't need them, don't fill them in. There's just really restrictive character counts on Microsoft Forms. Project landscape, this is where they talk about their actual project, what it is, what they hope to accomplish, how many people they hope to help. And we ask them to very clearly identify how this fits into both the Exhibit E of the MOU and also the Augusta City Council's opioid settlement policy. We asked the same question a couple of times, and that was intentional. In here, we asked some questions about the community that we already asked in the community landscape. Some of that was wanting to give people as much opportunity as possible to make their case, and some was to really draw the line of, we want these projects to be very deeply community focused, and the task force felt very strongly about having them in multiple places. I think our next one is the most complicated for people because of Microsoft Forms. It's where we ask them about their budgets. So we do have a narrative section where we just ask them to write out, what do you expect this to cost? How much are you asking us for? If you're going to, is this one time or is this ongoing, and how you have a plan for stability over time? We really wanted them to fill out a budget spreadsheet that itemizes those costs, and you cannot at this point do that in Microsoft Forms. So when our applicants fill out that narrative, the next question indicates that they need to go download the budget spreadsheet that we created and email it to me. And only when they have emailed that to me is their application complete. It is not the perfect solution, but it is the good enough that we could find. And then the project evaluation outcomes and transparency is the last component, and that is where our applicants can talk about SMART goals. We talked about SMART goals for a very long time in our task force, where they can outline what they're hoping to accomplish. And then we had a lot of discussions about transparency, so how you gather your data and also how you show your data and analyze it was really important to our task force participants. So we wanted our applicants to talk about their data collection process and what they do with that data afterwards. And then the last piece that we wanted our applicants to talk about was, how are you making sure that this project remains compliant? Because one of the things we really care about is making sure this money is spent for the purposes it was designed for. So how are you going, as this project develops over time, to make sure that you're staying within the outlines given to you by Exhibit E and the City Council? And that is the end of it. Our Microsoft form is available. There's a landing page on the city's website, and all of the supporting documents are right there. Like I said, we really encourage people to read the entire thing because you cannot save this form. So we want people to read it, type it up, and copy and paste it in so that they make sure that they get their information to us that way. We do apologize for the items that they have to email me. We tried really hard to figure out. Our IT department, I'm remiss in not saying earlier, is incredible, has given me way too much of their time, just very, very helpful throughout this entire project. Worked with me to figure out all the ways we could stretch Microsoft Forms, and then some things were just a hard no. So we figured out around the mail to was actually Corey's idea. So he figured out the workaround for us and has just been really, really helpful throughout. Can't say enough about our staff. They've really supported this project from start to finish.
Questions or comments? Councilor Morse Polly.
Yes, I would like to say that I think you did a great job. I reviewed this. I didn't find anything in here that I thought was not right on the mark. So congratulations to you and your team for doing that.
Had a great team.
And in regards to the full list of resources, I mean, I think we can put our heads together, and I'd be happy to help out with that so that they have something to start from. So thank you. Good job. I'm ready to go.
Thank you so much.
Councilor Gary Allen.
Very small IT thing. Are we sure it's supposed to say mail to? Because anytime I put mail to in my email, it like kicks things back. Shouldn't it just be your email?
We'll test it.
Okay.
Every time I've tested it, it comes up, but we'll test it.
Okay.
Make
All
sure.
right. That might be a me problem.
Councilor Judkins.
Just want to say, very thorough, well done.
Thank you. Thank you. This task force, they put their heart and souls into it. I am excited to see what happens when we start scoring.
Are you able to give them a shout out individually? Let everybody know who worked with you on this?
Yeah, all right, testing me. So I'm mentioned Director of Community Services, Earl Kingsbury, Don Kearns, our Community Response Specialist. We have Michael Pomerleau of Kennebec House for our Recovery Housing Specialist. We have Whitney Parrish Perry, who I'm forgetting what category Whitney fell into. Harm reduction, excellent resource, knows a lot about nonprofits. Gabrielle Berry Pierce is a person who has lost a loved one to opioid use and also an incredible legal mind and editor for the entire process. Let's see, we have, that's 4. We have, Catherine Holloway, a youth specialist. She has worked for a long time in the mental health field, currently working at Colby. We have, who sits around here, Deidre Stanchfield, who is a person living in long-term recovery, and myself, and I'm missing one. Danielle Hartford, our secretary. How could I forget Danielle? She takes all of our notes for us. She's incredible. And also works for Angles and has a long history in working for behavioral health, mental health, youth services, and is often at the overnight emergency warming center helping out there as well. So she's got her finger on the pulse. And we did have another recovery housing person who was at the beginning, Josh, I'm forgetting Josh's last name, Stover, who couldn't stay with us the entire time. His life circumstances changed, but then Michael stepped right in, and I have to say, it was pretty incredible because this group was up and going, and Michael stepped in and did a great job and was unafraid to kind of get into it with us. So it's been a good group, and I think they will continue to be a good group going forward.
Good. I thank you. I thank everybody that worked with you on your committee. I'm glad you had a chance to identify them for everybody watching. Great work product. Anxious to see the next steps and the results of the application process.
Me too.
Anything else on this subject? All right. So finally, I'd like to turn to the item that we added to the agenda at the top of the meeting, which is a discussion about the possible moratorium to prevent street-level residential development in commercial districts, or specifically KB1, which is the downtown. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, it was brought to our attention from Matt and his team that the reason why there was a pace to get this out is we had talked, if you recall, during our vacant building discussion, there was a component to that was going to be treated separately when we wanted to look at preserving our storefronts downtown with the idea of residential on the upper floors or even on the first floors, but leaving the storefronts available, if you will. So there is a inquiry about residential downtown in the storefront area, like an entire building becoming residential. So we wanted to bring this to your attention sooner rather than later because we did talk about preserving that, and it wouldn't be, we don't have any buildings right now that have, that residential component, a kitchen table set up in, on the sidewalk type thing, if you can imagine. So Matt's here to answer any questions that you have to be able to work through this process with our planning board and sending that to them to look at. But obviously, a moratorium would need to be enacted to give them the time to do that. So Matt, if I'm missing anything from you and your team, we're the ones working on that. But if you want to add anything to that.
Not really. I mean, you certainly have have identified the concern. Excuse me. The reasoning for it, the brief reasoning for this type of restriction. One, excuse me. There was a law passed last year, LD 997, that had a lot to do with encouraging residential uses in downtowns and reuse of existing buildings. It did specifically call out the ability of municipalities to continue to regulate these first level commercial spaces in downtowns and restrict or limit or prohibit residential on those front-facing street-level commercial spaces. That is the space, that's the area that keeps the downtown active and vital and a place where people want to go and feel safe going. When you, for lack of a better term, when you deactivate a storefront by either making it a residential use or a use that has low or no traffic going in and out, it creates a dead spot in the street front and is a challenge for keeping it feeling lively and comfortable and like a place that people want to be. So that's really the reason for wanting to pursue this and get out in front of any potential situation that we may have in the downtown where we lose some of those spaces and start to create those holes.
Councilor Michoud?
Is there anything preventing somebody from doing, building their home in a street storefront right now in Augusta?
No.
So this is something that we need to address because, I look at having Fred Smith and his 3 kids playing out on Water Street probably wouldn't be in the best interest of the rest of the folks that are operating businesses downtown. The second and third floors, there's residents there, but I think that, I personally think the storefront should be preserved. So whatever we need to do as soon as possible to preserve that, I think would be in the downtown's absolute best interest.
And to be clear, you if the council wanted to go forward with something like this, you could write a very narrow moratorium that only addressed that street level front portion of those properties. You have good examples right now. A good example of a building that was redeveloped relatively recently, the Vickery building, that did just that. They left those street level spaces available for commercial use, and even on the Water Street level, there are residences on the backside.
Councilor Sinkiewicz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to move forward with this. I think it's very important, and we are able to write this in such a way that it is that strictly, because incentivizing residences downtown is incredibly important for every other space except those.
Yes.
We will take all of them, every other space, but not the storefronts. My question was, with the redevelopment of Front Street, Is there any, it may be too far out to think about, but any reason why we should hold any of those spaces?
At this point, no. And then those spaces are going to be very different. They're not going to be able to be residential anyway because they're still going to be in the flood district.
Okay.
So those spaces would have to be in one way or another commercial. You can't put residences down below the flood level.
That makes sense. We don't want to do that. Thank you for bringing it forward.
Councilor Garyon?
I think I'm going to be an outlier on this pretty strongly. I need a lot more information to be convinced of this. Like, is there a project being proposed right now?
There are a couple that are being proposed right now. There's one in different parts of the downtown. There's certainly the old PJs that's being developed. There is an active interest in one of the old Cosmic Charlies, and actually, it's my understanding we've talked to in the past the current owner of the most recent Cosmic Charlies as potentially being all residential. We haven't had any recent activity on that one. The last set of plans that we had for the federal building, which are not the current set of approved plans, but the last set of plans actually had residential on the first level. So this is something that's an ongoing issue. Yes. And it's, like I say, one that is currently an issue with one of those properties. Yes.
Okay, here's where I think I'm struggling. I think I'm struggling with the idea that those are currently vacant properties. Like, they're not being anything. They're not a business. And we need housing. And we need business. So we need both things. But I don't think we need one of them more than we need the other one. We need them both, in my mind. I mean, I need to get, I'll need help getting there, or I'll be voting no.
And I think what this does is it does provide both. It still preserves that one part of the building for the storefront to be consistent, and then allows for residential, even on the first floor, even behind. It's just that frontward facing for that model, if you will, of the storefront, commercial, and residential. That's why we're bringing it forward, and that's
Okay, so like the literal storefront.
right.
Yes.
Just the front of the building.
Correct. The front portion of,
Faces
yep.
the sidewalk as you walk in and stuff like that.
Yep. So any individual
Everything else is residential.
that wanted
That
to
helps.
develop the back side of that first floor or the upper levels could continue to do that.
That's right.
That helps me.
Yes.
I am closer, but not quite there. Thank you.
Councilor Austin?
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. And yeah, I fully support moving forward with a moratorium and giving us the opportunity to study this better and put some controls in place. That makes good sense.
Councilor Lilly?
Right now, they would still have to go to the planning board to get approval for this, or no?
For
Converting the storefront to residential use,
no.
so they can
No.
just do what they
just
want.
pull a building permit and do it.
This was a concern that I had when we brought forward some of the more recent increasing the fees, penalties with some of the downtown. It felt like it was targeted towards downtown. It was citywide, but this was a concern that we had, or I had at least. It kind of feels like we might be in I'm close with Councilor Gary Allen, is that we have an issue. There's a little bit of, I want them to be filled, but we do still need the spaces for businesses, but I'm not sure if, we haven't had anybody do it correct, or no one's doing it now, or has done it correctly,
Has
converted any of the space to all residential on the first floor.
not at this point. No, most of the developers that have gone in downtown have very specifically chosen to keep that first level commercial.
So,
But there was no reason they had to at this point. They could have converted them.
so it hasn't happened yet. It's possible, but it has not happened yet.
But we have an active request.
Okay.
We have had we don't have a permit that has been submitted. We have had active conversations.
So, okay. So it's a possibility, but it's still not, no permit's been given.
Correct. There are no permits that have been issued.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Judkins?
So downtown districts are a very unique microeconomic environment. And a lot of planning goes into how do you continue to keep Main Street going. And this is one of the things, and once one of these is lost, it's lost. So I would use like a dental analogy. Like you got a great big beautiful smile, and then you flash it, and you got a tooth missing right in the middle. Screws the whole thing up. So that's what happens. You lose one of them, it starts precedence.
So we are in a position
slate.
to get this onto a business agenda for next Thursday for moratorium and also treat it as an emergency if the council is so inclined to kind of preempt any of these projects that are prospective.
I would sponsor something like that.
Same.
Does anybody not want to be a sponsor? All right.
Everybody but one?
Yeah, don't put my name on that.
And then,
Pardon me?
I don't want my name on it.
Yep.
and we can check with Council Lynn. Council Morris Polly?
Just a clarifying question. Moratorium, again, we would set a time frame, and that time frame would be for us, the council, to have an ability to look at how many storefronts are open, hear from the individuals who want to do the project, hear from the people who own the building, whether or not they're able to viably pay for the building because their storefronts are empty. All of those types of things would be discussed before we make a decision to make it permanent. Is that correct?
Yes, this is a land use ordinance issue, so this would be something that be put a moratorium on, send it to the planning board for the planning board to provide a recommendation. They would do all of those public hearings, and obviously there would also be an opportunity once they make their recommendation to City Council and those public hearings that you hold, you could have the same set of comments and from anybody who had any concerns.
So yeah, I think that it's appropriate. My opinion would be appropriate to do a moratorium just to be able to have time to study the issue. I see the issue from both sides, right? We do need housing. There are open buildings, but yet at the same time, this is also our downtown that we're hoping to revitalize. So I think we need to look at that.
Councilor Michaud?
Can you do an indefinite moratorium, or does there have to be a specific time period?
There's a time period.
Yeah, maximum of 180 days that could be extended for another 180 days. Those are your state statutory limits.
Councilor Judkins?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My understanding is too, this is not going to render any of these buildings undevelopable. What the worst situation is, they're going to have to take that one front unit and make it a commercial lease. Everything else can be residential. So they just have to alter the redevelopment plan, and instead of charging residential rate for that, they would charge commercial rate, which frankly will bring in more money. And it may mean that they don't find a commercial tenant right off, so it sits vacant for a little bit longer than others, but it absolutely will not render any of this undevelopable if somebody shows up and wants to put housing in there. It's not like, oh no, I can't touch that building. It's completely off limits. That's not the case. It's just one unit.
The way that I understand the council at this point, and what I had suggested was that the moratorium be very specific, as you just said, Councilor Judkins, to simply prevent that front portion of those buildings facing Water Street from being used for residential use. Any other use would be fine. Any other use that's allowed in that district would be fine, but residential would be prohibited.
Still be a restaurant,
Sure, absolutely.
anything else. So.
Anyone else? All right.
Have it on next week.
Yep. Before we adjourn, any comments, any announcements, anything like that? Council Morris Polly?
Yes, I have a committee announcement for the rebrand committee that we met last night. We had 18 submissions for the RFP, which is quite a few, ranging from about 3,500 to 200,000. So it was quite a range. So Hallie did a great job in breaking it down into 3 different tiers, the 3,500 to the 10,000 range, 10,000 to 25, and 25 to 200,000 range. We did some reviews last night of the tier 1 and the tier 2, and we narrowed it down to really 5 that we want to invite in to do interviews. And so we will be meeting next week to finalize those dates for the interviews and some questions. So we're actively working on that, and we're having full participation in it. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Counselor Senkowitz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In case anybody missed my segment, the opioid settlement funds application opens on the city's website tomorrow at 8 a.m. If you search on the city's website, opioid settlement fund, it brings you to that landing page with all the information you might need. I also wanted to note that the Lithgow Library's puzzle contest is coming back on Saturday, 9:15 a.m. You do need to register. It's teams of 2. You try to finish a puzzle as fast as you can. It's very fun. And they do this kind of habitually. And I believe that the book donations open up in the month of April. So the book sale goes on in August. They accept donations on specific days throughout the months preceding it. And you can look for that coming soon.
Thank you. Further? All right. Hearing none?